Hello everyone, and welcome to the March Model Aquatic Health Code Network webinar titled Aligning Inspections with the MAC, Introducing CDC's new app, Aquatic Inspector, with featured speaker Jason Kuntz of CDC's National Center for Environmental Health. Before we begin, there are just a few logistics to go over. Audio will be provided through your computer speakers. Please do not dial into any conference line. Due to the number of attendees on the webinar, all participants will be muted. Please submit any questions and comments via the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. The Q&A portion of today's webinar will take place after our featured presenter, but please feel free to submit any questions or comments throughout the duration of the presentation. Continuing on with a few brief updates from NACCHO, our next webinar will be held in May and will fall during Healthy and Safe Swimming Week. To receive updates on this webinar and other upcoming events, you can join the Model Aquatic Health Code Network by emailing macnet@naccho.org. Next, we are currently conducting a survey to evaluate the webinar series, and we would love your feedback. If this is your first MAC Network webinar, you will be receiving an email after this event with a link to complete an evaluation. Any input you can give helps us out. It helps us plan our topics and identify speakers that you will find interesting. So please complete the survey if you're able. On a separate but related note, NACCHO is beginning a new technical assistance program in vector control, and applications will begin opening this week. So follow us on Twitter or visit our webpage for more information. Finally, this webinar is being recorded and will be distributed via email to all participants. So you will have access to these links available on the slide here. We'll now begin with some updates from Doug Sackett, the Executive Director of the Council for the Model Aquatic Health Code. Take it away, Doug.
Thanks, Grace. Can everybody hear me okay, Grace?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, just a couple updates, mainly about committees, work that's going on with CMAQ. We do have two new committees that have been established. One's the Annex Revision Update. It's a standing committee. And we've got an Indoor Aquatic Facility Ventilation Design and Air Quality Ad Hoc Committee. So those, the Annex Revision is up and running. The Indoor Aquatic Facility Ventilation will be scheduling their start of their work within the next couple of weeks. We've got some additional committees planned. CMAQ and an APSP standing committee that'll be charged with agreed to work together to reconcile any differences between the MAC and the ICC swimming pool and spot code. We've got a spray ground, spray park design ad hoc committee to review the design and see if there's any updates needed on that, and a pool shell design ad hoc committee. The Annex Revision Committee is basically looking at expanding and improving the annex. If there's missing materials, included updating information. So they're busy working on that. The Aquatic Facility Ventilation Design and Air Quality, it's really to look at the factors that affect air quality at these indoor facilities and then review and evaluate the current MAC requirements as it relates to those items, and then identify any items, whether it be design and operational, that could be updated or improved based on the committee's work. Just a quick note on membership. Folks should realize that their membership coincides with the MAC update cycle, so all those members for the 2015-2017 code cycle, all those memberships expired on November 19, 2017. So you need to renew your membership, or for those that are not yet members, sign up. It's important as we move forward. We need your input and participation, and to participate on committees, you need to be a CMAQ member, but we really need the membership back in the fold, so and bringing your knowledge and expertise to the table and the workings of the CMAQ. Here's my contact information, which is also found on our website, and our website's CDC's Health and Swimming and the CMAQ here. And Grace, I'll turn it back over to you and to Jason to continue on. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Doug. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our featured presenter for today's webinar, Jason Kuntz. Jason is an environmental health officer in the Water, Food, and Environmental Health Services branch in CDC's National Center for Environmental Health. WFEHSB provides technical assistance, practice-based research, training, tools, and guidance to address environmental causes of foodborne and waterborne threats to health. CDR Kuntz joined in 2009, where he leads the agency's environmental health component of preventing and responding to Legionnaire's disease and co-leads CDC's Model Aquatic Health Code program. Thank you, Doug, for being here today.
Hi, Grace.
I'm sorry, Jason.
Oh, no, I got it. Hey, this is Jason. This would be a good time for an audio check. Am I coming across loud, Grace?
Sounds good here.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thanks, Grace, for the introductions. And it's a pleasure to be here today. And I have to say, watching these webinars over the past year or so, it always warms my heart to see the introductions and where people are calling from. We have quite a reach, I think, with this webinar series, and I'm proud to be able to speak to you all today about CDC's new app called Aquatic Inspector. So during today's presentation, I'll be covering two main topics. First, providing a detailed overview of Aquatic Inspector and its benefits through an app demo, or actually some videos of the app itself. I will also discuss the power of using aquatic inspection data to drive decision making, and then how Aquatic Inspector and the Model Aquatic Health Code, which I may refer to as MAC throughout this presentation, can assist with this effort. So now for a little background info to get us started. 68% of local health departments regulate, license, or inspect recreational water, including public pools. I ask, why not 100%? This might have something to do historically with the lack of national model guidance, such as the Model Aquatic Health Code. I think it'll be interesting moving forward to monitor over time if this number changes with the presence of the MAC now. So now moving to the inspection of aquatic facilities. Environmental health practitioners play a critical role in preventing illness and injuries at aquatic facilities through inspections and code enforcement, referring once again to that previous NACCHO statistic. However, what is concerning is that two of three adults who regularly participate in aquatics, or children who do not know that they can ask for inspection scores for these public aquatic venues. And we know from the food code and restaurant side that posting inspection scores online and on-site increases public awareness and helps the public determine where to eat at. So the power of pool inspection data does not stop at the consumer level. Environmental health programs can use inspection data to help direct enforcement, this concept of the risk-based inspection, which I'll go into more, and education efforts by using inspection data to monitor trends. And these trends, for example, could be, you're looking at your pool inspection data and you're able to search through settings, like, okay, I'm going to look at hotels right now, and I'm also able to search through my inspection data from a venue-specific level, and I'm going to look at hot tubs. And what I could reveal potentially is problem areas or areas to focus on. So additionally, EH programs can measure the impact of aquatic inspection programs on reducing violations and closures. For example, as I just described, after analysis of this inspection data, the EH program may have realized that they have an issue with hotel spas not passing inspection. And then further analysis reveals there could be a history of disinfectant and pH violations. So the EH program managers are then able to utilize this risk-based inspection concept by focusing extra education and enforcement effort, in this particular area. So ultimately, inspection data can be a powerful tool in the hands of EH programs to direct and measure the impact, of the precious resources that they have. So, however, in order for inspection data to be accurate and comparable, a standardized approach to inspections is needed. So it first starts with inspector training to a common standard or training program, which could be the MAC, and I'm pleased to say that we are developing MAC inspector training with the support of the National Environmental Health Association, And CDC is planning to release this in 2018 with an exact date to be determined. So we really are in some of the final phases of the training development at this point. So additionally, a critical part of the standardized approach to inspections is using a common inspection form. Now, this allows for data to be analyzed and compared across inspectors and even jurisdictions. And CDC developed the MAC inspection form to support this piece. So Aquatic Inspector bridges all these various requirements by putting the MAC inspection form at your fingertips. Okay, let's look a little bit here at project goals. So building on our previous discussion, the overarching project goals for developing Aquatic Inspector included supporting this concept of standardized approach to inspections based on MAC guidance and tools. That was the overall intent. With the intent ultimately to save time on inspections and allow for inspection data to be more easily analyzed to drive decision making. So it was in this vein that Aquatic Inspector was developed. I'm going to pause right now and turn it over to Grace for a new feature that we're going to demonstrate during this webinar, a public polling. And this is Jason again. It's my understanding we're going to leave these open for about 30 seconds, and we have a total of 2 questions. Okay, thank you, Grace. I thought that worked quite well. And just to recap, I had about 50 using paper-based copies of their inspection form and about 26 respondents indicating electronic. And I was just in the process of finalizing it before we closed our poll, but it looked like the majority were not analyzing inspection data, but a significant amount were. So I appreciate that poll, and hopefully I can frame some of this discussion going forward. Okay, so Aquatic Inspector design. Okay, so the Aquatic Inspector design here is based on the MAC model inspection form and marking guide. It's actually, we're going to name this officially the cross-reference guide. And this cross-reference guide is something new that we've developed here at CDC. And it was developed for use in the field while conducting aquatic venue inspections and for report development. So what the reference guide does is it links the MAC inspection report to content in the code language and annex documents. So the reference guide allows an inspector to quickly locate code language requirements and supporting information in the annex needed to develop a report. So sometimes these are referred to as marking guides. You know, we're in the process of getting this up on the CDC MAC website. It's with the web team at the moment, so be on the lookout for it. I think it'll be a useful feature here moving forward to help, you know, with the standardized approach to inspections and also for filling out the MAC inspection form. Okay, so let's talk about a few benefits of Aquatic Inspector. So unlike a paper form, and there's nothing wrong with the paper forms, I've used them as well when I've been doing inspections. Aquatic Inspector allows users to seamlessly access the full MAC, for reference to ensure consistent marking. So it's electronic. It's there at your fingertips at any point in time. You're able to take photos with Aquatic Inspector right there through the iPad and attach that to the inspection report, because we know those photos are worth 1,000 words, if we're taking a picture of a violation. We're able to copy facility and venue information within an inspection. So once we've filled out this venue information, it's there permanently, and we can easily copy that over. And we're able to validate fields to ensure that they're entered correctly. So Aquatic Inspector will not allow you to complete an inspection unless you've filled in the necessary fields. And you can store reports for future use if you want to go back and look at them. And if you have a cellular connection, you can actually email reports on site. So that's kind of some basic benefits of the electronic way of doing inspections. So in terms of how it was designed, our contractor, Communicate Health, used this notion of human-centered design. So it's involving your end user or your audience in the development of the product or campaign, and we'll look at human-centered design specifically here. So how Aquatic Inspector was developed is we had technical expertise from CDC and other experts where we helped them through things such as the MAC inspection form, that subject matter expertise that is really needed to develop an app of this nature. We also worked with state and local pool inspectors for tips and feedback. We did, most importantly, usability testing with pool inspectors. So we put this app out in their hands during the development phase, asked them what worked, what didn't, kind of break that app, so to speak, and come back to us. And we had listening sessions, or Communicate Health had listening sessions with aquatic health managers too, to get their feedback. So we wanted that, boots on the ground inspection expertise, and we wanted that managers as well experience on this app. And then we updated that app accordingly. And then moving forward too, we will also continue to solicit feedback as people use the app. So I'm going to move into an app demo here. And the way this app demo is going to work is that it's a series of videos of the actual app being utilized. And Grace is in the process of pulling up these videos. And I'd like to thank Communicate Health for putting these videos together. I certainly don't have the technical expertise myself to do these type of screen sharing videos. So we're waiting just a second here. And so the first video, we're going to look at sort of the launch and home screen of the app. Okay, so that's actually the splash screen of Aquatic Inspector, and this would be the very first thing that you see when you open up the app. You would have inspections in progress or previously completed. We've not started anything yet, so we don't have anything to show. Okay, so now we're actually moving into the facility information, and we only have to do this once for a facility, and what's nice about it is that it stores that in there permanently. So we have the name, put in our operator, and as I indicated before, it forces you to complete your fields. Putting in the address and the city. I realize this phase is a little bit like watching paint dry, but once we have this put in here, we only have to do it once. And we put in our pool permit number as well, if that is in your jurisdiction. Okay, now we have that facility saved permanently. Okay, moving on to the next, Grace. So the second video here, what we have here, now we have two different facilities in here. So we're taking this in right here, which we've already pre-populated. And we could go back in there and edit some of that facility information if we wanted to. Say that in changed ownership, but you still wanted to tie it to the address. You could do that as well. And you're able to enter new facilities along the way. And what we also, so you can delete a facility too. Okay, next, Grace. Okay, video 3. All right, next. Okay, now we're going to actually start moving into the inspection process here. So we're looking at this city pool. We have its health department location underneath here, and what we're doing is we're filling in the various venues that we have here. This is important too from a pool inspection perspective because we may have this main pool here, and that would be the first venue within that facility. And the identifier could be pool 1. The purpose of our inspection would be routine. And then there's this notion of risk type, which can get into risk-based inspections if we want to utilize that. So now we have the main inspection screen, and that follows the order of the Model Aquatic Health Code inspection form. And now we're entering a second venue, which would be the kids pool. And it's important here that we recommend, at CDC, if you're doing inspections and you're doing a main pool and a kids pool, that these be separate inspections. When they're combined together, it makes the data impossible to analyze, and it also becomes difficult to identify where those violations were occurring. Was it the kids pool that is having problems or the main pool? And you're seeing here that we now have a spray feature that we're also adding for our third venue, and that's now tagged as the interactive water feature, which is what we call it in the MAC. And we gave it its own identifier. And then we have the ability for the previous score too to enter that in there. Okay, so now you see all three venues up top: main pool, kids pool, spray, and you can toggle between the three. So those are going to be three independent inspections, but ultimately underneath that one common ID or permit number. Okay, next, Grace. Venue 4, we'll be looking at the pool and spa area. Okay, so now we're starting to move into the actual inspection, and this follows the way that the MAC inspection form moves along. Okay, so we're now looking at self-closing, self-latching gates. Okay, we've had a problem with one of the gates here at the main pool. Evidently, the gate hinges are rusty. So we're able to enter those comments in there. However, the owner was able to fix this on site, just for demonstration purposes here. And then we're able to say correct it on site there, but it would happen to be a repeat issue from, our previous inspection, which we reviewed that inspection form before we went out into the field. So we're moving along the inspection. We're clicking in. Everything appears to be going well, in the inspection. Water's clear, main drain visible, starting blocks are removed, and so on and so forth. And if you have something that's not applicable, like we're not going to be doing water temperature here in the main pool, we're able to click not applicable. For example, there may be numerical fields there, like air temperature. That's actually, I don't think, in the actual final app. This is an earlier version that we did this demo on. Okay, next, Grace. Okay, let's pause right here for a second. So if we can go back, Grace. What we have here in the app itself, anytime you see that little eye feature right there where you have that bump out box, that's actually the cheat sheet right there. So on the MAC website, you have your inspection form, cheat sheet, and reference guide. And that gives you a little hint right there what you're actually looking at. Okay, so if I'm looking at the pump, it's supposed to be in good repair and running 24 hours per day. All right, then you can click on that and it'll bump it out. All right, next. So video 5 here. So now we're moving into the kids pool. We're toggled over to the other inspection. Pretty self-explanatory. And right here, there's a related state and local code section. So this has been built to link to the Model Aquatic Health Code. However, if a jurisdiction was using the Model Aquatic Health Code inspection form or something similar to that, you could, if you're using the Model Health Code inspection form, then you could have your own code items associated with it. And we can't obviously build this for every code, in the United States. So that does give you the option to put your own code in. And what you're seeing here is a preview of the actual inspection form. So this should look similar to our MAC inspection form. And anything in yellow has not been completed. So at any time, you can actually toggle through and preview what the completed inspection form might look like. And you can see that there's going to be 3 inspection forms because we have 3 venues associated with this facility. All right, next, Grace. Okay, so now we're going to look at the water chemicals. So we're entering, like you can see, your disinfectant value there, your pH values. You're entering it in, your combined chlorine, cyanuric acid, etc. as you go through. So we're able to then preview the inspection form. And what we're going to see here is that your water quality readings are now embedded there in the inspection form. So they're there as part of that permanent record. But that was only for that particular venue right there. So we would need to go back and do those water quality readings for the other venues. So that becomes really important when you're trying to look at, say, like pH or chlorine levels in a spa over time to see if you may have trends of issues going on there. All right, next. So what we have here is now we're looking at the, now if you click on that tab specifically up top and you don't go to the venue, it now says venue all. So if you're looking at the equipment and chemical room, and that may be a common equipment chemical room that serves all three of those venues, that allows you at this level to complete the inspection, and it will self-populate all three of those forms. So it's a time-saving feature. So, if you're looking at lifeguarding records, most logically, you're only going to be doing that side of the inspection one time. And as you can see, it's populated all three of the inspection forms. Okay, next. Okay, and the last video here, you're able to delete and add facilities, and they're always stored in there. So we're moving to a new inspection, and once it's already entered in there, boom, that just shows you how much more quickly we're able to do that inspection once it's been saved there. So Grace is now transitioning back to the original presentation here, so just give her 1 second. Okay, so additionally, built into the app, we have a how to use the app feature. It's a very basic feature there that talks a little bit about some of the basics of using the app, but things like this webinar will be available, and this was built to be really intuitive. And if you're familiar with using Apple interface, whether you have an iPhone or an iPad, it will feel very intuitive to you in terms of the way you move forward and back and select things. And additionally, built into this app, regardless of cellular connectivity or not, you have the Mac at your fingertips at all times. So you're able to download this app, and you can search anything you want. So you type in filtration, and it will pull up anything associated with filtration. So you have the power to go back through the cheat sheet and then also take it a step further and consult the app verbatim if you're looking for specific language here to cite for something being out of compliance. And the summary reports, as I indicated below, we weren't able to show you an option of the picture, but here's that rusty hinge that we were talking about. So you would hold your iPad up with its camera, take a picture of that hinge, and it will embed it right there with your actual inspection item in anything that you have associated with it. Like, for example, it said fixed on site. So key features to recap this app. We're able to save department and facility information for future use. You can save and preview the form at any time. I think that's helpful to let you know how you're progressing. And it includes that local code for inspectors as well. And there are some limitations to that. I will acknowledge that. But it is an attempt, though, to help those of you that may have your own code and numbering, even if you have used this app. I'm sorry, even if you have adopted the Mac to utilize this app. And you're able to access the cheat sheet in the full Mac at any point in time. So there are some challenges and limitations to this app. I want to be clear that it's not going to answer or address all those issues out there. So the first and foremost is indicating where local code differs from the MAC. This has to be built around the MAC. It would be impossible for us to develop an app that would support every state and local code. So what we have here is an app that's linked to the MAC that those you use if you have adopted the MAC. And then reporting is limited to summaries at this time. There's not the ability currently to run any type of queries on your data. However, the way I understand the app being built is that if somebody was access savvy, they have the ability to actually grab the data off this app, so your own generated data, and you can run some queries that way. So the app is developed open-ended. So if a local health department was using this, they could develop some access level type database to pull data off of it. So what are the next steps and future opportunities with the app? So it's available for free right now on iTunes, and it is only available through Apple at this point in time. So we had to choose a medium to go with. I recognize that many health departments use Android as well, and I think based upon kind of how this app is being utilized out there, we would consider whether or not in the future if it would be worthwhile to do this from an Android perspective, but there's no commitment at this point in time. So the app will be updated based on the latest iOS releases and bug updates, and we're hoping to get this updated on the 2018 Mac as well when it was released, and then user feedback as well. I want to hear from you if you're using this app. Send me a line. I have my contact information out there. Let me know what you think about the app. And then something I didn't talk about a lot as well is that I know a lot of health departments out there are already working with existing data vendors and have these contracts with data vendors. And this app is not intended to replace that. It has some clear limitations in terms of being able to analyze data, etc., and also even storing the inspection forms. But what I think this app can do is serve as a conversational piece too with your data vendor. If you like some of the features associated with that, or if you're looking to move towards the Model Aquatic Health Code, this could be a conversation with your data vendor. And also speaking to the data vendors directly, this app was developed, through the federal government. We developed this app, for the general public. So there's nothing proprietary about this app. We've encouraged data vendors to take a look at it, see how it's laid out, and feel free to incorporate any of this methodology or thought process into your existing data packages. So we really developed this app to be a conversation starter, going back to that core mission of promoting, use of the Model Aquatic Health Code and the standardized approach to inspections, and then using data to drive decision making. That's really what we're ultimately trying to do here. Okay, so you can download the app, just type in Aquatic Inspector, and it will not work on your iPhone. It's just simply too small. You wouldn't be able to fill it out. So it's only going to work on an iPad. You can find that currently in the iTunes store. There are more resources on the Model Aquatic Health Code, and also you can search the MAC on the Council for the Model Aquatic Health Code's website. That's something that I don't think everybody realizes, what the feature that we have there. So I talked about how you're able to search the MAC here on this app. Well, you're able to go to the Council for the Model Aquatic Health Code. You can see search the MAC right there and search the various versions of the MAC using keywords. It really is a powerful feature. I use it quite often here when I'm looking for stuff in the code. And I want to pause here for some acknowledgments too. I'd like to thank Communicate Health, the contractor that developed the app. It wouldn't be possible without them and their expertise. I'd like to thank the CDC team that worked on this app over a couple years. Maggie Byrne, Commander Lacope, Ham Wigington, Michelle Halavasa, our epidemiologist, who really helped us think through and challenge us to think through the data side of this. And then also the National Environmental Health Association. We partner with the National Environmental Health Association moving forward to keep this app up to date. So the thing with an app is that it requires some continual maintenance associated with that, and I'm happy to say that NEHA has risen to the occasion to help us keeping this app up to date going forward, at least for a couple years. And if you have any questions, you can email me at jkuntz@cdc.gov, or you can email the MAC mailbox at mac@cdc.gov. We monitor that mailbox, and we'll get you a response back either way. So I'll pause right now for questions and feedback. And Grace, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Jason, for this great introduction to a fantastic new app for pool inspectors. So we will now be moving into our Q&A portion of the webinar, and it looks like there are a lot of great questions, so we'll have plenty of time to address them all. We will be moderating them, myself and Joe. So the first question that we have for you, Jason, is this data stored in the cloud for other inspectors to see in your department?
No, great question. That's one of the limitations currently with this app, too, is that inspection is scored on the local device itself as a PDF. So that would require the inspector then to upload or send that PDF back to home base to analyze. When you start thinking about the cloud and storing things, there's a lot of data use, storage considerations from a federal government perspective that we would have to think through. But so no, it's just purely as I described now, stored on the device. Great.
The next question that we had from our participants is there a limit to the number of venues within a facility?
Ooh, really good question. I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know. I would have to get back to you on that. But I know you can do 3 at a minimum.
Great. Let's see, moving on.
You need 17. Okay, that's good. That's good. I understand that. There might not be. I'll just have to get back with you on that. Or you can check the app out itself. Try populating 17 in there. See what happens.
Okay, awesome. So the next question moving forward is, we got a comment. I've tested this, and at the very end, when I want to send the report, it is a zip file. Many government offices don't allow you to open a zip file. So do you have any feedback for this issue?
Let's store that here for feedback. So this is the type of feedback that I'm looking for now that the app is out and in place. I will store that down. Not store that. I'm writing that down right now, and we'll think through this when we're talking with the update group. But as these type of things emerge, please send this to the MAC mailbox or to myself as well.
Great. We had another question from someone who's asking, are we able to revise the app features to align with the MAC that is adopted by each state or territory? Some jurisdictions may not adopt all provisions of the MAC.
Yeah, and that's one of those limitations again. Once you start picking at this, you can find that there are some limitations clearly. So no, the app itself is the way that it is currently built. However, I think as MAC adoption becomes more widespread, and if there is truly a need, and people are using this app, these are the type of conversations that need to be had.
Awesome. We have another question that was happening in the chat box a little bit, but we'll go ahead and bring it to the forefront. When a violation is corrected on site, is there a way that we can mark it as such, but it won't be counted towards the demerit points?
I don't think so, and I think when we purposely thought through that, at least our concept here is that we're happy that it was able to be corrected on site, but it was still a violation in our opinion. So I don't think at this time.
All right, we had another question, which I'm sure was on everyone's minds to some extent. Have you considered creating a MAC app for pool operators?
Yeah, no, not at this time. We're just specifically focusing on the state and local environmental health level, which is predominantly what my group focuses on here. But I am aware, though, that there are a number of apps and other associated things that I'm starting to see out there sort of in the marketplace when I do those scans and go to conferences that I think are directed towards operators.
Great. Sort of related to the earlier question about tailoring the app, someone would like to know if you're able to share the developer so that they may work with them to tailor the app to their regulations.
The name of the app developer that we worked with, the contractor, is in the presentation. It would be Communicate Health. They were a subcontractor from the federal government. But I can't recommend a contractor, but that was who helped. That was our contractor for the app.
Sounds good. Another question. Jason, would you be willing to discuss connecting with an online record-keeping system for pool owners, with the pool owner's approval, of course?
Yeah, that gets really complicated. I understand exactly the nature of that question out there. From a data perspective, there's an awful lot of data that's being generated out there, probably within some of these, aquatic facility apps, etc. But that's not something that we could commit to. There's some pretty strong data considerations, that one would have to consider and work through there. But I understand that it's a well-taken comment.
We have another question about whether you can make an app for the FDA model food code, which I think that might fall a little outside your jurisdiction, Jason, but any thoughts on when there might be an app available for further health inspectors for the food code?
You're giving me gray hair saying things like that. No, yeah, that is definitely outside of my scope. I don't work in the food code realm. I'm not aware, of such stuff like that even exists, but we do have a food code. We do have a food team here within the branch. I just can't say anything more at that. I've not heard anything about it.
Well, I used to be a health inspector in restaurants, and that would be incredibly helpful for me. So I'll be on the edge of my seat, I know, waiting for one of those to come out.
Well, I do think those are conversations that CDC's happy to have. I don't know where that comment came from, but we do have a food team here as well at CDC.
Great. Let's see. We have another question asking, can data be gathered from pool operations within a specific area to analyze data from several operations in that area?
I'm trying to think through that. So would this be operator level data collected from pools, not health department level inspection data?
Let's see.
And if the answer is yes, then no, the app is only set up for looking at specific health department level inspection data. However, looking at a records review would be kind of a surrogate for that. You're not actually collecting the specific data, but you're looking at that aquatic facility's record keeping data to ensure that they are maintaining those records, accordingly. And that's one of the items in the aquatic facility inspection, in the MAC inspection form.
Great. We have a couple comments/questions about including territories in the drop-down for state, and as well as adding Guam as an option for location in the drop-down menu.
I'm sorry, Guam's not an option. I saw that we had participants from Guam, and I got really excited, and now I'm feeling kind of crummy that Guam's not in the drop-down menu. I'm going to note that. Sorry, Guam. Did not mean to exclude you. These are the type of updates that will occur along the way as we release these apps. They're not perfect, and we're going to identify bugs. So I have Guam with an exclamation mark on my notepad.
Awesome. We have someone who's asking for a link to HealthSpace. This may have been addressed in the previous question, and I'm not sure maybe if Joe is is on that, but I'm sure that we could get a link to you for that. Let's see. Other questions coming in. Just to be clear, they're checking to see if local code can or cannot be inserted. They say, I thought I saw on an early slide that a local inspection form can be used.
So the app itself uses the Model Aquatic Health Code inspection form. That's unable to change, and if you do not enter in your local code, it will reference the actual MAC section. So this is the only way that I could see that this would work from a local perspective. If you were using, say you adopted the MAC in its entirety, just to make this conversation really simple, when you were using the MAC inspection form as your actual inspection form, however your numbering system changed for whatever reason, you would be able to manually go in there on each of those inspection items. If, say, there was a violation, you could actually identify your local code ordinance number where there was a violation. So it's one of the limitations that we have here. Or, for example, the alternative would be, say you're using an inspection form that looks like the MAC, or is the MAC inspection form, and that's your local code, and those inspection items line up to local ordinance numbers, then you can manually insert those local ordinance numbers in there.
All right, it looks like our questions have slowed to a trickle for now. We'll keep it open for another moment. We did just have one more comment following up on that question about local adaptation. Just some further comment on that limitation in particular. So it looks like Phil is typing. We'll see if Phil has a question.
Dave, I see Dave Namey, if I pronounce that correctly. You should have my contact information there. I'm going to go back there. Send me an email and let's connect offline and see if we can talk about this. It sounds like you're close.
All right. So as long as there are no further questions coming in, then that concludes our webinar for today. So I would like to thank Jason on behalf of NACCHO for joining us today and providing this great overview of a very helpful tool. And you all will be receiving a full recording of this webinar. So that recording will contain all the links that you've seen today. And with that, we'll be wrapping up. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. So thank you all for being here today.